Hello, Michigan, and welcome to my fireside chat on the Green Party. I want to give you some history on the Green Party, what the Green Party's platform is, what we stand for, what our 10 key values are. I want to give you my personal history with the Green Party and why I am a member. I want to also explain to you what it means to be a super minority and how we can change the face of Michigan politics together. So first I want to tell you about the 10 key values of the Green Party. These are the values that drive the Green Party. There are 4 pillars that hold up the Green Party and our values. Those pillars are grassroots democracy, social justice and equal opportunity, ecological wisdom, and nonviolence. Grassroots democracy stands for all human beings must be allowed a say in decisions that affect their lives. No one should be subject to the will of another. We work to improve public participation in every aspect of government and seek to ensure that our public representatives are fully accountable to the people who elect them. We also work to create new types of political organizations that expand the process of participatory democracy by directly including citizens in decision making. So this is pretty self-explanatory. My personal background as a canvasser, as an elected official, as someone who has worked on numerous campaigns throughout my entire adult life, grassroots democracy is the key to American democracy, and it is a key component of the Green Party's values. Social justice and equal opportunity. As a matter of right, all persons must have the opportunity to benefit equally from the resources afforded us by society and the environment. We must consciously confront in ourselves, our organizations, and society at large any discrimination by race, class, gender, sexual orientation, age, nationality, religion, or physical or mental ability that denies fair treatment and equal justice under the law. Again, this is a very simple, straightforward part of our platform. We believe in equality for all, civil rights for all, social justice for all, and that we need to uphold these values in all aspects, not just of our everyday lives, but as elected officials and in the laws that we create and how we make policy. Ecological wisdom. Human societies must function with the understanding that we are part of nature, not separate from nature. We must maintain an ecological balance and live within the ecological and resource limits of our communities and our planet. We support a sustainable society that utilizes resources in such a way that future generations will benefit and not suffer from the practices of our generation. To this end, we must practice agriculture that replenishes the soil, move to an energy-efficient economy, and live in ways that respect the integrity of natural systems. This is a really central component. It's not just environmentalism. This is about acknowledging climate change in every aspect of our lives and in our public policy. Line 5 is a prime example of putting business over our environment, and not just our environment, but also our economy and tourism. We have to acknowledge that there is a limit to fossil fuels, yet there is no limit to wind and solar and hydropower, and how we can actually really truly transform our nation's energy and our state's energy, and how we get our energy instead of relying on fossil fuels that destroy people's lives and destroy our environment. Nonviolence. It is essential that we develop effective alternatives to society's current patterns of violence. We will work to demilitarize and eliminate weapons of mass destruction without being naive about the intentions of other governments. We recognize the need for self-defense and the defense of others who are in danger. We promote nonviolent methods to oppose practices and policies with which we disagree, and we will guide our actions toward lasting personal, community, and global peace. This platform point is not just simply anti-war. This is not just about peace and love and hippiedom. This is a platform that specifically ties to the issues of violence in our streets, that we recognize that violence in our society affects us all, and that we need to transform how we approach these issues, especially issues of gun control, of police brutality, of militarization, and of how we approach our military spending. Decentralization. Centralization of wealth and power contributes to social and economic injustice, environmental destruction, and militarization. We seek a restructuring of social, political, and economic institutions away from a system controlled by and mostly benefiting the powerful few to a democratic, less bureaucratic system. Decision-making should, as much as possible, remain at the individual and local level while assuring that civil rights are protected for all. This platform point I like to tell my friends who lean Republican or lean conservative that this is really the platform point that is kind of the most conservative in the basic sense of the meaning of the word conservative. This is truly the platform point about not just small government, but about local control, because we know in a democracy, we have much more control over our politicians and have the ability to hold them the most accountable on the local level. This is also the platform point that addresses the oligarchy that currently runs our country. We must stop idolizing and giving tax breaks to billionaires and instead make sure that we have a society that works for the working class, that works for the people that work the hardest, that make our country run. Community-based economics. We support redesigning our work structures to encourage employee ownership and workplace democracy. We support developing new economic activities and institutions that allow us to use technology in ways that are humane, freeing, ecological, and responsive and accountable to communities. We support establishing a form of basic economic security open to all. We call for moving beyond the narrow job ethic to new definitions of work, jobs, and income in a cooperative and democratic economy. We support restructuring our patterns of income distribution to reflect the wealth created by those outside the formal monetary economy, those who take responsibility for parenting, housekeeping, home gardens, community volunteer work, and the like. We support restricting the size and concentrated power of corporations without discouraging superior efficiency or technological innovation. This is a platform point for small businesses, for businesses that structure specifically to allow their employees to own a piece of the business that they work so hard to create and maintain, about how we can have the strongest possible economy that works for all of us, that works for the people that are doing the work, that are in the trenches, that are putting in the hours and the time and the blood and the sweat and the tears that make our country run. We don't have to rely on big businesses to have a secure economy or to have innovation. We have the ability to restructure that money that's going now to big business tax breaks and put it into small local communities and encourage innovation on a local level so that someone who doesn't have access to that kind of money now has the ability to still be innovative and help drive our economy of the future. Feminism and gender equity. We have inherited a social system based on male domination of politics and economics. We call for the replacement of the cultural ethics of domination and control with cooperative ways of interacting that respect differences of opinion and gender. Human values such as gender equity, interpersonal responsibility, and honesty must be developed with moral conscience. We recognize that the processes for determining our decisions and actions are just as important as achieving the outcomes we want. This is intersectional feminism. This is equity. This is equal pay. This is the platform point that talks about the need to ensure that no matter what your gender is, no matter what your gender identity is, that you have the ability as a human being to be treated with dignity and respect. Respect for diversity. We believe it is important to value cultural, ethnic, racial, sexual, religious, and spiritual diversity, and to promote the development of respectful relationships across the human spectrum. We believe that the many diverse elements of society should be reflected in our organizations and decision-making bodies, and we support the leadership of people who have been traditionally closed out of leadership roles. We encourage respect for all life forms and increased attention to the preservation of biodiversity. This is certainly the platform point that addresses not just civil rights, but even animal rights. That we need to acknowledge that all living beings on our planet deserve respect, deserve to be treated humanely. This point also speaks to the problems that we have in our government today. The lack of representation, the lack of the ability to have diverse governmental bodies that are making decisions that govern all of us without the representation of all of us. Personal and global responsibility. We encourage individuals to act to improve their personal well-being and, at the same time, to enhance ecological balance and social harmony. We seek to join with people and organizations around the world to foster peace, economic justice, and the health of the planet. We certainly live in an age today of globalism, and we cannot run away from it. We cannot allow xenophobia to drive any of our economic policies. We also must recognize that what we do here in the United States is also impacting people across the globe. That our plastic bags that we get from the grocery store are ending up in our oceans and ending up in the stomachs of marine life. When we can have coalitions of like-minded people around the globe working towards peace and justice and the health of our planet, this is how we can prevent future wars. Future focus and sustainability. Our actions and policies should be motivated by long-term goals. We seek to protect valuable natural resources, safely disposing of or unmaking all waste we create, while developing a sustainable economics that does not depend on continual expansion for survival. We must counterbalance the drive for short-term profits by assuring that economic development, new technologies, and fiscal policies are responsible to future generations who will inherit the results of our actions. We must make the quality of all lives, rather than open-ended economic growth, the focus of future thinking and policy. For too long, we have had people in power who look for short-term ways of fixing long-term problems. I do not want any policy decisions that I make to negatively impact people in the future. What we need to be making sure that when we create new laws, when we are looking at new ways of transforming our economy, fixing the issues of jobs and roads and transitioning to green energy, that we also remember that our decisions today are going to impact people in 10, 20, 50, even 100 years from now. We see this with what happened with industrialization, that today we are reaping the effects of air pollution and water pollution and chemicals and Superfund sites. And these are the things that we need to be cognizant of when we make public policy today. I know our 10 key values kind of speak for themselves as a reason as to why anyone should want to be a member of the Green Party, but I want to tell you a little bit about my personal story about why I'm green. When I was about 8 years old, I used to walk around telling people that George Bush, that's H.W. Bush, made me a Democrat. I was raised by two union parents. They were both on strike in the 80s, and I remember that very well. And when I was a kid, I thought that the Democratic Party was the party of the people. By the time I got to high school and I was about ready to vote on my own, I realized that that was no longer the case. I can say pretty confidently now that Bill Clinton made me a Green. 2000 was my very first presidential vote. And as I was looking at the candidates and doing my first kind of research and really very excited to vote for the first time, I really loved Ralph Nader. I loved his message, I loved what he stood for, and Ralph Nader had my vote in 2000. Now, I did vote for Barack Obama in 2008. I was a political independent. I went with who I felt was the best candidate, and I was really drawn to the hope and change message that Obama ran on. I know I'm not alone in that. I would always vote down ballot Green, though. I always knew that I was a Green at heart, that the Green Party really did have the values that I believed in. The town I live in, Redford, is very Democrat heavy. We're blue collar, working class. This is a community that really does not agree with some of the values that the Republican Party has and has flocked to the Democratic Party for many years now. But I knew when I ran for elected office, I did not want to run as a Democrat. Thankfully, I didn't have to make that choice when I ran. In 2012, I ran for my local school board, and school board is nonpartisan. I did not have to register as anything, and although I always knew that I was a Green, I never knew that there was really a local organization that I could belong to. There's a few catalysts that made me officially decide to join the Green Party and really work to make the Green Party something that could transform Michigan politics. The first was my research that I did on the Flint water crisis and finding out all of the problems in Flint were not just on Rick Snyder's shoulders, that there were also local Democrats who are culpable in this situation. And I found that both political parties in the state of Michigan are putting party over people, and that is why Flint is not yet whole. Around the same time that Flint was going through their struggles, the school district that I represent, Redford Union, also had a hostile annexation attempted by local members of the Democratic Party. And lastly, my catalyst was the 2016 primary election, where I saw what happened to Bernie Sanders and how the Democratic Party not just treated Bernie Sanders, but also how they treated his supporters and the quote-unquote progressive wing of the party. I knew at that point that we needed a drastic change, not just in our country, but in our state. That we really need a true party that represents the people. And so I came back from the protests in Philadelphia, and I called up the Green Party, and I got immediately involved. And at the beginning of 2017, I helped form the Wayne County Green Party, and I have been on the ground working to build up the Green Party ever since. So how can we drastically transform Michigan politics? The two-party system in our country and in our state has truly just become a he said, she said, with no gray areas in between, and that is why policy and laws that are being passed today do not positively affect the average Michigander. So how do we break this gridlock? It's almost kind of simple. Taking the idea of the parliamentary system and finding a way to make it work within our current system of government. And what that means is by having a third party, the Green Party, become a super minority in the state Senate and the state House with a Green up top. It would not take that many people running for office under the Green Party ticket and winning to break this gridlock in Lansing. In the state House, we have 110 state representatives. We can break the majority between the two parties with 12 people. In the state Senate, with 38 members, we can break that gridlock with 10 people. This is doable, and we can actually make a real change together. If you think that the values of the Green Party align with your values, join the Green Party of Michigan. Help me recruit other people to run for office, because I'm sure you know someone who would be a damn good state senator or state representative. If you are interested in running for office, if you've thought about it, I'm asking you to join me. Contact my campaign. Let's talk about how you can run. I will help you. I will work with you. We will work together as a team to transform Michigan politics. And together we can make it happen. I also need your help, of course. I am a grassroots candidate. I cannot self-fund my campaign. I need your help. Whatever you can donate, every small dollar amount helps and will continue to help me spread this message across Michigan. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you have a good afternoon, good evening, and good night.